Hey everybody, it's Chris from Texas Toast Guitars, and today we're going to paint a Jag. So in our first video, we cut out this really cool Jag body out of a piece of roasted pine and did a little preliminary sanding. Now this body's a little bit further along than that, but I filmed getting to this point and we'll keep going from there. So let's get to it.
In the first video, we left off with just the basic rough body shape, but there was still quite a bit of sanding to do. I started out with 100 grit sandpaper, and I used 100 grit instead of something a little hardier because this wood is pretty darn soft. So I sand the whole thing with the orbital completely flat with 100 grit, and then I go around and I do all of my edges with that same 100 grit, and on this step I try and get rid of all of the tooling marks. And what I mean by that is, like, when you put a half-inch round over around it, there's a little bit of a square edge right where the round over meets the flat body. So what I want to do is I want to make it look a little bit like somebody sucked on this guitar body like it was a piece of candy for 5 minutes. And then I go to 150 on the sides, and then I do 150 on the back and top again with the orbital to make sure that it's ready for sealer and all of that good stuff. And then I look it over and check it several times. So this is the new Simtech UV Cure pore filler, and the way this works is you put it on. You can use your fingers, you can use a rag, however you want to do it. I like to start in the places that need the most, and that's all the end grain, and I rub it in. And the idea is that you rub it in and then you let it sit for a minute or two, and then I'm doing the top and the back, and I'm using a squeegee here, and I think this is the last time I'm going to use the squeegee. I didn't actually like it very well. I did a better job, I think, mashing it in with my hands. So you get it all on there, and then what you do is you wipe off the top, because you don't want to have to sand all of this stuff off. You just want it to be in the pores of the wood. So I'm wiping it off, and I'm starting to see what this body would look like if I finished it in just natural finish. And I know some of you think that this wood is really cool, and I dig the wood, but I don't really have too much of an issue painting over this with some some color. Here I am using a Q-tip that I bought at the dollar store, getting it all out of any place that I don't want it to be. So this is the UV light setup. This is the new UV light, and it just takes a second or a minute to cure this UV product. It's really cool. You have to get it, every single angle has to get some UV light, otherwise you end up with little sticky edges. And I'm still getting used to using this. And I'm sure my technique will change as I get better at it. Not quite sure what I'm doing there. Oh, I guess I'm trying to pick it up. So you have to wear all this safety gear to protect you from the UV light, because UV is a carcinogen, and I don't want to give myself cancer curing guitar bodies. And I wanted to show this in real time because it really does just take that much time to completely cure this UV stuff. And it's rock hard now. So after you UV cure the pore filler, you have to knock back any high spots on it. There's a few little bumps here and there and things like that. So you want to smooth those out before you start applying your sealer coats. Then it's time to get it ready for sealer. So I'm masking off the neck pocket because I don't want a bunch of sealer in my neck pocket. And I am putting on the paint stick. This is one of the new paint sticks from the Spin Twist rig. So this is the second coat of Simtech that I'm putting on in the afternoon. I messed up filming the first one, but it's basically spraying on Simtech. You've seen it 1,000 times before, maybe only 100 times before. This guitar is getting a very, very special paint job. Did I mention that? Here it comes. I'm sure that everybody's heard the story that Fender would farm out a lot of their custom paint work to local hot rod shops. Well, it wasn't always a hot rod shop. Sometimes it was a furniture store. This is the Dennis Swiden story. Dennis did a lot of paint work for Fender, sometimes up to 20 guitars at a time. His parents owned a furniture store, and Fender would bring guitars to him to paint for them. And he not only did paint work for Fender, but he also did paint work if you had a guitar that you wanted to have repainted. His specialty was metal flake and pearls and pearlescence, and no doubt he mixed up all his own custom formulas. Here's a silver to purple burst. Here's a probably metallic burgundy mist. And one of the guys that he did a lot of paint work for was Dick Dale. This is Dennis and Dick at Dennis's wedding. Dick was the best man. Dick famously had his guitar painted seemingly once a week. Here it is in pearl white. Here it is in Beach Party in the same pearl white. Here it is in Purple Burst on an East Coast tour. And then it finally got painted Chartreuse Metal Flake, where it remained until this day. Annette. He also had Dennis paint the rest of the band's guitars in what they called Surf Burst, which is a super pearly two-tone aqua. This is the beast as it looked very, very recently. He also painted guitars for lots of other surf band, Kathy Marshall and Eddie Bertrand from Eddie and the Showman, one of my favorite surf guys. This is Eddie's guitar today. Maybe one of these days I'll make a little more detailed video about this particular guitar and how I played a part in discovering that it was in fact Eddie Bertrand's guitar. Dennis really liked pink, but I kind of like these Surf Burst fades. But I kind of also really like this burgundy mist into silver kind of burst. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So the first step to our paint job is to get rid of any dust and contaminants, and here I am wiping it off with the tack rag. I want to make sure you get every single little tiny bit of it. I'm not quite sure why I didn't speed this part up. Maybe that was an oversight. Don't worry, that's not sped up. That's regular speed. I'm just going faster. On this, the first step is I'm going to do a base coat of white. And that's so the next paint has fewer coats to cover. You can't tell, but this is the first color coat. It's sort of a light metallic pearl pink. Let's just call it that. This is the second coat, and it's starting to sort of show its color now. I think this basically took about 3 coats for it to get to where I wanted it to be. Now it's starting to look like I want it. So this final pass, you can't really tell, but I'm holding the gun quite a bit further away from the surface, and I'm just sort of fogging on a light coat. This is over-reduced color, and that allows the metallics and the pearls to come to the surface a little bit more. So now it's onto the burst. And the way I did this is I added a little bit of another color called Sangria Pearl to the existing, I don't even know what to call it, pink? So anyway, so now I'm bursting it. And the Spray Right twist rig is super, super cool. It makes doing this stuff even easier than it was before. I'm constantly adjusting the gun. As I go, I want it to get, I really want this one to look like a fade. I want it to look like one of those pearl bursts, only in pink and burgundy mist. So I don't want a really, really hard line. So I keep changing the settings on the gun to a little wider pattern and a little more material, and just keep angling it. And now I'm doing the headstock in the same basic burst. Okay, so here's the first coat of clear, and this is UV clear, because I wanted to get it done in a hurry, and because the UV clear dries really, really smooth. This stuff is really, really nice to work with. And I think one of the reasons is because it never actually starts to get hard until you hit it with the UV light. Here's the neck, here's the back of the neck. This neck is roasted maple, and it is drop dead sexy. Wait till you see when it's finished. There's a little bit of glimpse of it here, there's a little bit of glimpse at it later, but it is just crazy how good looking this neck is. So here we are, after I did 3 coats of UV clear. Now I'm using the UV light again to cure this stuff. And you have to hit it at every angle. And as soon as the light hits it, it's cured and it's hard, and you can do whatever else you need to do to it. I could wet sand and buff it right after this. It's really, really neat stuff. So the next step is to wet sand. This is 1500 grit on our pneumatic orbital sander. I'm using a little bit of water as a lubricant. This is really just denubbing at this point. I'll do a little bit more thorough job with my favorite block and more 1500 grit sandpaper. The idea here is to get it completely flat, completely smooth before you start buffing, but you also have to be aware of scratches. The final step before this body and neck are ready for assembly is to buff them. I can't wait to show you how great these turned out. This first step is the heavy wheel, heavy buffing wheel. This will remove 1500 to 2000 grit sanding scratches. I guess they're scratches. The next step after this will be the medium wheel, which will shine it up a little bit, and then the fine wheel. I do the top, the sides, the back. This thing turned out so good, you guys. Just wait till you see it.